chosen by Dr. Janki on fast food. I mean, at first I felt, okay, what mazak is this? But I said, no, we can share a lot and we can talk a lot and we can make people see some sense on our role as nutritionists and what we are doing and what we can do more so in all aspects of food service. Because food is what gives us life and food is what sustains life and food is everywhere. I'll share my screen, Janki.
Yes, go ahead.
It is happening, remember?
You can, ma'am.
You have to allow me to share, I believe.
I allowed. I made you co-host.
Okay.
So you can share, ma'am.
Just a minute, Mayuri, I'll just get it done.
No problem.
See now, again, I cancelled and I did it.
She's disabled.
You will get that share screen in the middle.
Yeah, but it's not happening from there. I'm trying to just see.
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that fast foods, all foods that we choose, all foods that we buy, all foods that we want to buy from the market, that we want to bring to the table. Yes, everything can be, having its impact on our health, on our energy status, and on our disease risk. So fast food is defined as easily prepared processed food served at snack bars, restaurants as a quick meal or as a takeaway. The National Institute of Nutrition defines unhealthy or junk foods as those that contain little or no proteins, vitamins or minerals, but are having good amounts, rich amounts of salt, sugar, fats, and are high in energy. All over the world, the term junk food has different connotations, like the HFSS, which is high in fat, salt, and sugar. That's WHO acronym. Then the Republic of Korea has defined the word EDLNF, that is energy dense, low nutrient density foods. There's one more term, energy dense, nutrient poor foods for children. Then you have foods of minimal nutritional value by the US. But I would say that fast foods can have two impact, because it may have limiting amounts of nutrients which are favoring good health, like proteins, vitamins, phytochemicals, minerals, and dietary fiber. So it can have a negative impact on health because it also has a very high amount of fats, sugars, and salts, which can disrupt the health balance and increase the disease risk. Fast foods are known to be positively associated with adiposity and adversity. It has been shown in several research papers globally that a person who caters to such kind of junk food ups his calorie intake by 200, and frequently consumed fast foods can give you a higher body mass index and increase your risk to conditions like hypertension, insulin resistance, and so on. There is also one aspect of fast foods, which is the low amount of micronutrients. See, the term hidden hunger is very much in use now. That is because our diets are very much low in important micronutrients like iron, vitamin D, calcium, and minerals like selenium and zinc. So more processed foods that we are using, yes, more trans fats that we are using, and the fast cooking methods, it kind of reduces the nutrition availability, and hence we are so much at risk of so many health diseases. There is a plethora of research papers which talks about the growing menace of fast food consumption and its health aspects. In India, there was one study which actually showed that when a lot of fast foods consumed by pregnant and lactating women, it has had an altering impact on the fetal brain reward pathway, altering the so-called child's future food preferences. So this rising trend of increasing consumption of fast foods in India is also linked to the rising prevalence of NCDs. We need to, as nutritionists, as food service providers, as health professionals, come together and somewhere make an impact with regards to adopting some legal advices or service education approaches to promote healthy dietary practices, especially so with regard to junk food. Again, a lot of researchers worldwide have shown that fast food consumption has known to impact physical health. And the various aspects are, of course, adult obesity, the rising prevalence of hypertension because of the extra amount of salt in these fast foods, then the high incidence of NCDs, like you have cholesterol being on the higher side, which is known to have stroke, and gastritis affects the kidneys because of the extra sodium, affects the liver. Now you see a higher prevalence of fatty livers, and that in people who are not even having any alcohol or very less alcohol are known to show such high levels of fatty liver. It is linked to such highly processed fast foods. It also, in children, fast foods are known to have a higher prevalence of dental caries. I see a lot of patients coming to me and telling me, okay, we have chronic fatigue, we're always tired, we are working and they're working long hours. And then, you know, they are at risk of caffeine, a lot of colas, a lot of coffees, a lot of these so-called energy drinks are all high in caffeine levels. We see a rising level in type 2 diabetes. We have allergic manifestation because the colors and flavors being used. So many cancers being seen. Of course, childhood obesity. Today, we are known to be becoming a nation of people with a higher prevalence of not only low muscle mass, sarcopenia, but also osteopenia. There is growth retardation, infertility in men and women. So everywhere, every aspect is. There was another paper which spoke about the impact of junk food consumption on mental health, and you can see that this high fructose corn syrup, the refined salt and chemical preservatives are affecting the person's alertness. They are also impacting on the fetal level, and we are, leading to higher prevalence of Alzheimer's at a very younger age. Children are having attention deficit disorders. There is lower IQ. A lot of people talk about depression so easily and so frequently. So what would you define a healthy food as? There are people who would say that a food which is medicalized, okay, food which has nutrition and scientific evidence is healthy food. I would say we dietitians need to adopt a legitimate role, and we need to talk more about dietary recommendations. We need, because people are reaching out to us. I see very frequently youngsters asking me, okay, what should I eat? How much should I eat? What can help me with better health, and how can I improve my energy status? So we have a very big role to play. We need to understand that we are influencers. So there are people who come to us with perceived benefits. They say that, okay, we are resorting to fast foods because it is economic, it's convenient, it's fun, it's good taste, it's available, and it's good to hang out with people. And there are others who know that fast foods can have unhealthy impacts because they're high calorie, high salt, high sugars. So we need to, when people come to us for counseling, we need to talk about, okay, we need to reduce, we need to improve on our food choices. There are interesting findings again from research data that dislike for cooking is linked to a higher frequency of using fast foods in the young adults today. Also, the males and the unmarried youngsters are known to frequent fast food centers. We need to develop strategies whereby we can have intervention on the public level. We can target them by having demonstrations of healthy food preparations. We can talk about imparting cooking skills. Nowadays, because of lockdown, I myself have tried to, come onto the social media through my Instagram and the FB pages. I have been talking about how we can healthify our so-called, fast foods or snack foods or everyday foods. How we can make even our bakery items or our chaat items much more healthier. If we involve the children and the youngsters, and when they, in their formative years, start tasting healthy and interesting different foods, they will develop a liking for so-called healthy fast foods. So there are fast food influencers and there are influences that we have. One study spoke about how people who are very impulsive, who look at just short-term benefits, to be the ones who frequently have fast foods, because they feel that, okay, I just had a pizza and I'm feeling happy about it. So I had a cola because I was feeling low, I'm feeling energized. But one should understand that when we have these so-called fast foods or these so-called energy drinks very often, we are having long-term impacts. We don't always have to look at convenience and palatability. One has to look at what will happen over weeks and months. Nothing happens in a day or once in a month or once in a fortnight. Things happen over a few months and years. So it is not just the urban areas, urban or the cities where we have this unhealthy or this fast food trend. It is very much happening in the low socioeconomic strata and the rural. There was one study which brought out that the fat content in fried foods was as high as 28.8 grams per 100 grams in the rural setting. So this has long-term implications. Today, obesity is not just a disease of the rich or the urban or the corporate sector. It is everywhere. It is there even in the labor class. So we need to target even the oil and fat manufacturers who supply these oils to these small setups where these fried foods are being made. We need to also, there are studies which talk about the snacking behaviors in school and college going children. And it has been noticed that children, youngsters just reach colleges and schools because they've been up late, so they don't have enough time to have breakfast. So what happens? They resort to the cafeteria, and what are they having? Just those fried bondas or fried vadas, or just those butter toast or those curry biscuits or those cookies and cakes and colas. So there is a very high risk skipping meals and then looking at fixing the meals with fast foods. There is a lot of data. A US study spoke about this ultra processed fast food consumption and the increasing risk to obesity. There is one more study which I just came across recently, which was talking about the high percentage of trans fatty acids, fructose, and MSG, which is your Chinese salt, monosodium glutamate, which is linked to weight gain, adiposity, insulin sensitivity, and more adversities. So most junk foods, yes, we all know, are fast foods. They're prepared fast, they're served fast. So it is not very easy to say no to junk foods. But junk foods, if prepared with care, caution, and using nutritious foods, can become healthy foods. There is enough research, there are enough innovations happening all over the country, and we nutritionists, we dietitians who are having our clinics, or those who are into academics, or those who are part of industry, we can help put in those ideas and strategies so that we can help the consumers understand the impact of these high energy foods which are using sugars, polished starches, high salt and high sodium compounds, and the colors that are used in the so-called readily available fast foods all over, not just restaurants, but wherever we have people. So we have people, we have children in schools, in daycare centers, we have them at railway stations, at the airports, everywhere. Now lockdown, we are at home, okay, we are homebound, but once we go back to our old novels and we are again back to interaction and movement, we will go back to those habits. So now that we are in lockdown, we have some more time to think about what we are doing to our health. I'm sure if we reach out to the population and talk about what diet can do to help and what bad diet can do to your health, we can talk about these things. So take out the bad, leave in the good, develop healthy fast foods, include functional foods, minimize the undesirable foods so we can maximize the impact of desirable foods. We nutritionists, we dietitians, all those who are with me today, we need to initiate new ventures, increase awareness so that we can improve the intake of healthy foods and promote good health. I always would feel that my talk is incomplete if I don't talk about the healthy food plate. We need to have half of our plates filled with fruits, vegetables, unprocessed grains, include the dairy. Reach out to people, talk about protein adequacy. We Indians are known to be a nation of starches and sugars. We just like our atta, ghee, tel, shakkar. We need to reduce that and come out to, okay, we like our veggie proteins, we like our eggs, we like our milk, we like our curds, paneer. We can have raitas, we can have shakes, we can have smoothies, we can have soups, we can have so many ideas. We can have protein dense pizzas, we can have protein dense burger tikkis, we can steam, we can boil, we can pan braise, we can talk about better food methods of cookery. We need to help support the need for developing a healthy body weight and reduce the risk for chronic diseases. We need to talk about Aaj se ek chammach kam, that talks about fats, about sugars, about salt. We need to initiate also consumer awareness activities about the use of or about the presence of trans fatty acids and saturated fats. We need to alert our hawkers, our restaurateurs, about people who are developing new schemes, new outlets. We need to encourage them. Like I was reading about this Singapore program where they have this healthier hawker program. So we need to tell them about what they are doing with use of those poor oils. So how they can switch to healthier oils, how we can implement social marketing campaigns. So the government needs to use nutritionists at every venture. And we nutritionists can talk about the use or talk about asking which is the oil or fat which is being served in a particular restaurant, or we can learn, we can talk to our patients, about people whom talk to, whom we reach out to, about read labels, find out which is the oil, which is the fat, what is the amount of salt, what is the amount of sugar, what is the amount of say any color which can be allergen to you. So we need to talk about these things. Unless we don't create awareness, we're not going to create a need or a requirement. So where there will be awareness, there will be an increased need, and we can then reach out with better food ideas. One study run in a school in Delhi brought out this, that we need to understand what are the reasons for unhealthy consumption of these frequently consumed fast foods. The 6 reasons were proliferation of fast food retail outlets, hyper palatability of fast foods, marketing of fast foods on electronic social media, diminished household cooking practices. This actually is a reference to, we are using too much of these Swiggy and these guys who come with fast foods quickly. Bhook lagi to kya hua, 2 minutes. The lack of food, good food, and tendency to seek peer group acceptance. We just feel that, okay, because my friends wanted to have a pizza, so I too had a pizza. Or because my friends who are playing a particular sport are having this particular sports drink, which is so much high in sugar and caffeine. So even I'm having it. So we need to have, we have to implement certain, activities or certain principles in curricula. We need to talk about restricting the sale of unhealthy foods, school canteens. We need to make available palatable, nutritious food. We need to discuss about the advantages of what healthy foods do to you, as also bring out the long-term impact of unhealthy fast food, rich in sugars, salts, and colors and additives. And we need to bring back that old home economics subject, which made children in schools, prepare foods in the school. I'm sure there are enough schools even today which talk about, which tell the students to bring healthy dabbas, or, there are days when, like I know my school in the CBSE were asked to, once in a month bring something healthy. And how I try to, make a pasta with lot more vegetables and sprouts. Or once we had made a pav bhaji with vegetables, sprouts, and sweet potato. So there are many avenues where if you have a nutrition input, we can bring about a change. So Mayuri, I think you need to.
Yes. Yeah. So I was just getting this question as you're saying that, we need to make a healthy plate. Yes, I understand. I mean, most of our nutritionists we know, but for general audience, my question is, how can we make it more healthy? You are talking about a healthy pizza, you are talking about a healthy burger. So how can we make that? If you can give some insights on that, it would be great for the general audience.
Definitely. That has been my, you can say last, say 4 months, ever since the first month when you were all just at home.
Right.
And I felt, okay, I just remembered how my father told me, when he had a very massive cardiac arrest, a few days before his death, he was discussing that you read such a lot, and why don't you bring that knowledge, amongst the masses, talk about healthy food ideas. And
Right.
I felt now that I have so much of time which God has given me, so let me start experimenting on a larger scale. So every day something new came up. So this idli that you see is of your brown rice, where I put grated beetroot and finely cut coriander mint, and there's a peanut chutney. The sambar has much more vegetables. And this is the ragi idli. Ragi is my favorite though.
Yes.
Because it's rich in calcium, and it really has a good amount of fiber, helps to improve the gut microbiota. the ragi dosa, the ragi shira, the mixed dal dosa, the quinoa upma. So I try to stratify how you have the different fast foods. So this is the Udupi Ventures. Then if I bring in the baked goodies. So this was there on my FB post. The spinach croissant. This I'm yet to post. This is the mint and cheese oats bread made by me and done up. This is the nuts and dates. I have used dates, raisins, almonds, sunflower seeds in a filling of oats and whole wheat and baked.
Wow.
This is my pita bread where I've tried to bring in a lot of vegetables with a healthy tomato and beet soup. And this was a stuffed pie made again from oats. And the stuffing was hummus. Hummus is made from chickpeas and olive oil. This is the jawar pizza made with the chicken and cheese topping. And there was this ragi bread with soup. Yeah. Then the chaat corner or the Gujarati ideas. So we had this chatpata moong chaat. Then we have the moong sprout cutlet. We have the moong dokla. Here again, there was no soda being used because I'm totally against the use of soda and fruit salts and ENO because that does have a very bad impact on the gut microbiota. Again, the dahi vada is not deep fried. The dahi vada was made from an equal portion of urad and moong dal, soaked with a little bit of methi seeds and zeera and pepper and ginger, and made on the non-stick pan. There was no deep frying. And then there was this
it looks
dahi.
so delicious. Looking itself is so delicious.
Yeah, this is the mutia. I grew up in having a lot of mutia thanks to my, neighbors. And they were so good in all their steamed mutias. And this is the moong cutlet.
Wow.
The salad bars, yeah. Today in Mumbai, of course, we have a lot of salad bars. And I thought, let me have some more ideas. So I've tried to introduce your lettuce leaves, the pak choy, the sprouts, the paneer, the tofu, the chavli beans, the chickpeas boiled. Then this particular salad had sweet potato and mango. I think we nutritionists can just, use our ideas and, ask our people who come out to us or on our talks, how we can introduce so many things and how we can just make the regular dal into a different, whole dal venture. So the Mumbai special, the pav bhaji became a ragi pav bhaji.
Wow.
The kati roll became a paneer stuffing with a whole wheat roti. This is the corn chat. This is the open toast with loads of vegetables, a little bit of cheese. Then you have this smoothie with a stuffed toast because you cannot say no to your youngsters. I'm not going to give you. I too have 2 young children and who are now married. And I never said no. I said, okay, you will have it, but with a difference. So they never complained. So you have this juice counter. So I said, yes, we always are talking about, say, coconut water and talking about, say, orange juice and lime juice. So I felt, well, why not bring in this pineapple and mint? Yeah, the beet and mint with lime. And then there's one more, the date and lime. So I think we can just bring in ideas. So if we can talk about, my plate, yes, I will win because I will be more healthier in my ideas. Friends, whether you are young, old, male or female, every time you eat, you are either feeding disease or you are fighting it. And we nutritionists have to tell people however we have an opportunity to tell people that, remember, body, when it is hungry, it just does not want calories, it wants nutrients. So when you are hungry, first drink a glass of water, then look at, okay, what can I choose healthy? So we need to create healthy habits, not just restrictions. Optimize nutrition, enrich lives. Over to you, Mayuri.
Okay, ma'am. So participants, you can start posting your questions. So meantime, I have few questions. My personal questions again. I'll start with my questions. So, ma'am, there are many finicky clients, and they say that I eat only junk food. I just eat only junk food. So, how do we deal with such kind of clients? I mean, what kind of suggestions that we can give to them?
Okay, very valid question. So every person who comes to me, I take the person's food recall.
Right.
And then I find out, how frequent is his or her consumption of whatever is being eaten. Then I analyze the diet. Yeah, I also would tell the person with a physical, examination. We always look at the person's weight to height. We look at the body fat. We look at the waist circumference. And of late, my very pet, inclusion in my dialogues is, let's look at your waistline. And that waistline, if it is like more than 90 centimeters, yeah, whether men or women, if it's more than 90, it is linked to a lot of adversity, because adiposity, the visceral fat, is linked to that. So when
Ma'am,
we look at certain kind of blood tests, yeah, we can tell them that,
Zubaida
look,
ma'am, sorry
yes,
to
yes.
interrupt you. Can you please stop your screen sharing? And we can go ahead with the Q&A.
Okay, yeah, sorry, stop share.
That's okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, so I was talking about that, we don't need to attack the person. We need to make him understand, look where you are, look what you've been doing. And then I would tell the person, okay, you've been doing, say, just biscuits for breakfast, or just a pizza, or just a bread. Say, how about some protein? See, your proteins are lacking. And because I look at body fat compositions, and some very, very, very often I'm able to get their blood reports. I look at their health history, the link with their parents' disease risk or presence of diseases, whether they are obese, whether they have got diabetes, whether they have got thyroid, or the patient himself or has complaints like, fatigue or anemia, or has pain in the body, or has anemia or high sugars. Then gradually, I will never say, okay, sab kuch khana band kar do, I'm going to give you only sprouts to eat. That will never work. I would say, okay, bring in chole, bring in rajma. At least, dals. See, dals are again without the skin, they're again processed. So they're lesser in nutrient densities compared to your whole moong, chana, matki. Again, if you soak and if you sprout them, so you tell the person without incurring a single cost, you're going to doublify your vitamin C with B complex and fiber. Also, it will make the proteins much more easily available to you. Everybody wants less kharche mein more faida. So talk about these things.
Okay. So people are asking, how can we make a healthy pizza base at home? Any recipes?
Oh yes, plethora. First you start with, half maida, half wheat. For all my new, adventure cooking people, I always say half.
Okay.
Yeah, for every 1 cup, which is like 120 to 150 grams, safely use 1 teaspoon of either dry yeast or fresh yeast.
Okay.
Let that fresh yeast, dry yeast get a little bit activated with little warm milk and a little bit of sugar. It becomes bubbling, put it into your flour, put some warm water, knead it, keep it for an hour, make a roti. Yeah, after an hour it will rise. Again, make your roti base, bake it once on your tawa on your non-stick pan, it will happen. And you put your topping, in your topping again, stop using your bottled, tomato toppings. You can make it at home with tomato, onions, garlic. Use your healthy oils. Bring your rice bran, your groundnut double filtered. Bring in your mustard, til oils. It is not difficult. Bring in these small changes. Stop using a lot of ready-made sauces.
Okay. The next question is from Shaili. She's asking, what is your opinion about traditional Indian sweet recipes?
I would always say they are better. They're always better. I would always rate my rasgulla, gulab jamun, ras malai with higher health, context or proportions a lot as compared to our biscuits and cookies and cakes. No ways, because again these baked cookies, cakes with a lot of maida and lot of saturated fats, again with high heating temperatures, they have age, a chemical which develops and which is linked to a lot of you can say complications like insulin resistance and infertility and PCOD. So we need to talk to them about this. So I would say when I spoke about those recipes, I have tried to replace maida with say barley atta, oats powder, ragi atta, and I do now 80% of ragi or barley with 20% maida, and I bring in fresh yeast. There is no harm. I don't use soda though, any of my cookery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can instead of like soda and all, we can just use yeast and bake the pizzas, burgers, and everything.
Even for dosas and this doklas, we don't need to use, because now we all want instant. I mean, this instant food, convenience food has become a regular food habit. I would say instant and convenience food were meant to be used when you were in trouble. You didn't have time. Once in a while. You can't make once in a while all the while. We need to plan. See, if we are pre-preparing our meals, menu plans, at least say 2 days, then you will start soaking. If I can do it being a working woman, I work more than 12 hours a day. If I can plan my meals, if I can, position myself to buying things on a Sunday, washing, cutting, chopping, soaking, spotting, anybody can do it. It's not difficult. It's just mind over heart. I
Correct.
want to make a difference, and I'm sure that good food habits are going to have long-term good habits.
Right. So we have a question from Shubhangi. Ma'am, can you please give more tips for healthy baking?
Definitely. I would say first, whatever you are doing, you replace that with your unprocessed cereals or millet flours. You can try bringing in, even your chana atta. And again, chana atta, you can take the whole chana or the whole chickpea, get it made into an atta or the green moong. I'm doing it. It's possible. Then you bring in your healthy oils and your olive oil, your ghar ka ghee. Yeah, you can do those things. Use lesser salts. I am using a lot of, kharak, which is your dry dates, your dates, raisins, whether black or white. I'm bringing in my all my oil seeds, right from pumpkin seed to sunflower seeds to til to kalonji, which is nigella. Yeah, after this last 4 months, I have done a lot of cooking. I made one sorghum bread where
Wow.
I put a lot of these seeds, and it was so well liked by my neighbors as well. They
Wow.
all got to taste that. Well accepted.
I think we need to make another episode on all these. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what is the alternative for baking soda? I use the same for healthy whole wheat flour plus oats for making cookies and all. This is a question from Shukita, I guess. Okay, which I make at home for my children. So she's asking what is an alternative for baking soda?
For baking soda,
But
you can try.
especially when we make items like cookies or maybe cakes, something like that.
See, cakes, you might use a little bit of baking powder, but you can actually use vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah, vinegar with milk, quickly mix, and then you add it just before you are trying to put the batter for baking. That works.
Okay. Both for
Because,
cookies?
yeah. Because, when my kids are very small and I used to make for them chocolate brownies, they thought they were chocolate brownies, but I was always cheating, go for healthy reasons. I put a lot of ragi flour at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they are, my son is 28 class. So he always liked that I want to have, these chocolate cakes because all my friends are doing it. So I always said, okay, I'll give you. So I would put, of course, cocoa, but I would put in dates and I would put in ragi, and he never have a little bit doubt, okay, this is not chocolate. He said it was chocolate.
Probably because he haven't tasted the processed one.
So it is, what you give your child at the
Right.
6th month. So if
Right.
they never had sugar in their milk, they never knew what it was have to sweeten milk.
Sugar
They never
taste.
have it even now. Yeah.
Correct.
It's how we develop the taste buds, basically.
Correct. So there is another question from Rim Jim. Dr. Zubeda, it's a wonderful session, ma'am. Want to understand which one is more apt for weight loss, millets, quinoa, or ragi? Is it fine to replace rice with millets? Will it help in weight loss? Of course.
See, ragi is a millet. Yeah, there are several millets in the Indian market. You have got ragi, which is nachni, that is a little millet. You also have sorghum, which is jawar. You've got bajra, right? You've got maize. You've got rice, which is brown rice, red rice. You've got whole wheat. You can have the kapli wheat. There are many. It all depends on the person's body composition and at risk. See, if you have got thyroid, you will have to restrict the use of jawar and bajra and soya. If you have got diabetes, you will want to use more of millets. So it all depends. But firstly, look at your total food intake. What is your protein adequacy? What is your fat intake? What are your cooking methods? Whether you are eating at regular times, whether you are having a good breakfast and a light dinner. So I think it's lot of counseling which is required for weight loss. It is not just replacing your atta with ragi or brown rice. There are people who have lost weight even on brown rice, depending on what was their medical or health complication.
Right. We have
preparations.
Okay, another question from Sufia. Is yeast is good for health?
Why not? If it can make my food little interesting once in a while, why not? What is wrong? See, yeast was never bad. It is, how often we are using it and what is the base being used. And yeast does have some amount of B12 and B6 and some amount of protein. But of course,
really?
how much of yeast do you use? See, let's look at what are we using? 1 teaspoon? One
Yes.
teaspoon, say, in say 2 big paos. When I make paos, out of 100 grams or 150 grams, I'll get 2 big paos
Right.
or 2 pizzas. So how much will I get to eat? So I don't think the impact is linked to the amount of yeast I'm going to use. No impact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another question. Does beetroot juice increase inflammation in the small joints?
No, in fact, beetroot helps reduce because beetroot is very rich in folic acid. It's known to improve energy. It's known to even reduce your blood pressure. So it helps as a vasodilator. And sportsmen are being given these drinks now 2 hours prior so they can, have better oxygen carrying capacity. That's a wrong notion, yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Yash asking, are protein shakes good for health?
You're talking of protein shakes as in your whey proteins? Yeah,
Yash,
why not?
yeah.
Yes,
Yash,
if you're doing it post workouts, and if I think it is safe to use 25 grams a day. No harm.
Okay.
But it is not just this protein which will make you healthy. It's all about your whole day's food and your weekly food choices. Yes, and what kind of food preparations are being made in your house.
Okay. There's another question from Sufia. Is mustard or til oil is better than refined sunflower oil?
Definitely, anytime. All your double filtered, I would say look for double filtered labeling. Your groundnut, your sesame, which is still a rice bran, the peanut, which is your mungfali, your groundnut, then you have mustard. See, India, whichever part you belong to, and which is the local oil there, use that oil. Just, reduce your intake of deep fried and baked foods.
Yeah,
and it is the oil or fat per day what you are using which is important, and how you are using it. It is not just which oil you are using.
Okay.
I hope I'm clear on that.
Yes, ma'am. Always healthy, seasonal, local is always healthy. That's how our body is adapted to. I say this. So we have a question from Shalu Jain. ENO is a healthy option for fermentation?
ENO?
Yeah.
ENO can never be healthy. ENO is your again soda, fruit salt. No. See, when you want natural fermentation, you soak. You wash, first you wash, then you soak. So when you soak, especially urad dal. Yeah, urad dal, when it is soaking, it develops a particular bacteria, which when it is, grinded with any kind of rice or ragi or whatever, and then left for fermentation over 4 to 8 hours, it will ferment. And that will give you that risen, that rice when you steam it like a dokla or an. I put the photograph that was made without any kind of ENO.
Okay. So how do you make this dokla, ma'am? I mean, without ENO and all.
So I just said I will first wash.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, chana dal?
No. Urad dal, chana dal, yeah. Because I use little bit urad dal and little bit methi seeds because that really allows me that fermenting, impact.
Okay.
And I put a little amount of pepper and zira as well because I feel these are good digestive agents.
Correct.
So much being spoken about, immunity and digestion. So we are using it more so, and the results are very much better with regards to softness in the fermentation.
Okay.
There was one lady from the south, who had once told me her inputs that if you use the rind, the white part, the watermelon, when you're grinding your idli or dosa batter, that even helps in fermentation, and that really works as well.
Wow,
that's a good tip.
Oh, great.
My
I hope
patients
audience are listening all these tips. Okay, we have another question. Just give me a minute, ma'am. We had a question. Okay, can coconut oil be used daily in cooking?
I would say coconut oil in cooking only if you are like from the particular south and you are used to that, continue. Because if you are healthy and if it's like, maintaining your lipid profile, continue. But to use coconut oil, say living in Mumbai or say Delhi, just because somebody is talking about coconut oil, wrong concept. See, coconut oil has come into a lot of news nowadays because that is used for oil pulling. Like as per the Ayur guidelines, it is like 1 teaspoon early morning. Don't brush, don't wash your mouth. Put that teaspoon into that oil, coconut oil, which is again your cold pressed coconut oil. Keep it in your mouth for say 5 to 8 minutes. Swish it around and then you spit out. So they say it removes toxins. But to deliberately want to use coconut oil has no scientific reasoning. You know, you can continue using your rice bran oil or your sesame til oil or your groundnut oil or your sarson ka tel, like from the north or from MP. You have patients, I ask them if you're using, and if I look at the lipid profile, I say, do not change it. You rather have more healthy inputs. Like I will tell them how to use functional foods like flax seeds, like, you know, bringing in your til, bringing in your roasted peanuts. See, peanuts, again, I would say, do not have it raw. You either roast it, you boil it, because you will remove the trypsin inhibitor. So there are many ways to help improve on your health quotient and especially your lipid profile. One oil cannot change your health index. Right, Mayuri?
Right, true, well, absolutely. We need to use a combination of oils. There is no oil that is good or bad. All oils are good, provided.
How much
provided,
oil, how we are using it.
Yes, how we are using it. We have a question from Swati Patel. Ma'am, your opinion on cold pressed oils?
Well, very good idea and very good, you know, input. I would say all those people who have learned to mindfully reduce the oil used in cooking, yes, and under the advice of a clinical nutritionist, can use these cold pressed almond oil, cold pressed flax oil, cold pressed coconut oil as a part of your salad dressing. Or you can apply it on your roti. I myself advocated to people who have got a cardiac risk profile, or people who have got inflammatory, you know, indexes, very high CRP levels. So I advise it for those patients, but then I teach them also how to reduce on the total calorie. So I help them control their carbohydrates by selecting healthy carbohydrates, healthy proteins, healthy fats, you know, teaching them how to identify your invisible fats, your visible fats. A lot of storytelling which happens when you're counseling.
Okay. So we have another question from Mamta Kalyanam. How safe is refined oil? Present, the basic packets which we are using, how far they are safe? Basic packet refined oils, how far they are safe?
See, we will have to buy refined packet oil. We can't produce oils, right?
Right.
Unless we all go into, you know, just steaming and boiling foods. That to come even on a very, you know, long-term basis. We have to procure those oils. Now, as I said, learn to have a combination of oils. Look for oil variations every month. Like if I was doing rice bran last month and I'm using now sesame oil, I would go into even, you know, olive oil. So I keep changing my oils. Or sometimes, you know, I'm like able to get 3 different oils. I would buy half kilo mustard oil. I would buy 1 kilo groundnut oil. I would even go and buy 1 kilo of extra virgin olive oil and use it differently in my day.
Right.
That is the best way. You know, have a combination. Don't mix and keep. Use it for different recipes. Something can go in a salad. Something can go in a quick tossing, quick pan braising recipe.